The following broadcast is a Nighthawk Network presentation.
What's going on, y'all? Your boy E-Buck, the Nighthawk in the building. What's going on? How's everybody doing this evening? Hopefully you are having a great beginning of your week and you're finishing out the summer strong. I am here to talk to y'all tonight. The hope is to do both of my shows this evening. What's going to happen is we are going to do the I Am Nighthawk podcast for the next hour, take a short break, and then come back to you guys with the Big Buck Sports Report and get it in that way. Would have did this yesterday, but as you guys know, I have some days where I'm not always feeling also great. Yesterday turned out to be that day for me, unfortunately. Feeling much better today. Thanks. I appreciate all your love and concern in regards to my continuing health issues. But more than not, I am doing well. That will be the update for that as far as that goes. Today, this evening, we are going to talk about at least should be the biggest issue in America right now, the ongoing strike with the UAW members, and also the strike that we have not discussed nearly enough. We will definitely get into that a little bit later in the show, but for now, we are going to get into why I feel we all should be concerned about what is going on within the UAW Big Three situation. Now, of course, as a person who resides here in Detroit, Michigan, home of Motown, the car capital of the world, it is, of course, a big deal here. We constantly see people walking throughout the downtown area, throughout several of the plants that are located in and around Detroit with the picket signs up showing their support for their union. We definitely, for the most part, would like to let you guys know that we are standing with you. This is definitely a union network. This is definitely a union household for that matter. I, of course, have never been in a union. However, I do have a brother who is in the union and works for the Big Three. My father worked for the Big Three for many years, and I also have a couple close friends who are currently working for the auto company and are part of the union. So I stand in support of all of those people in regards to what I feel should happen for them. Now, of course, if you only keep up with the situation on the news outlets and just see the basic talking points, let's get into some of that. As you know, there was an offer put out there by the UAW early on in the scenario. The big thing that they were asking for at that time was a 49% raise increase, ending to the tier system, which basically, if you talk to a UAW member, they could explain that far better than I as far as how that works. But I can give you a basic understanding of what I know. They definitely want to try to attempt to have a 4-day work week for the employees and also just have better compensation overall. Now, some of you, as I've talked to people, as I constantly do in my line of work, are under the misnomer that the people that work in the plants, they should be straight. They make a lot of money because they work at the plant, and plant workers make a lot of money. Don't they get doggone profit sharing every year? Thousands. I don't get that at my job. And I understand if you are a person who works at one of the lesser jobs, I don't want to belittle anybody's line of work. In the end, you do what you have to do to make your money, to pay your bills and support your family. But I imagine if you are somebody making the bare minimum that you can make in this country, which to my understanding is the $7.50 an hour that some people make as minimum wage, then you look at the auto worker and feel like they live in a rich person's life compared to what you have to struggle through. First of all, I blame Congress for not passing, when they were passing the legislations early on in Biden's administration, that $15 an hour national minimum wage. Part of that does come into play here when we talk about the big three and the wage compensation. Understand, people, let's get to the main focus here. In the last several years, we have gone through a pandemic. We are all aware of that. We are all trying our best to move past that and move forward, or to forget it happened altogether, particularly if you are more concerned about the compensation of your pockets from day to day than anybody's quality of life or how they live or anything to that effect. Some people, they never had COVID. They wasn't around nobody had COVID, so they don't care. We're not about to get into that discussion. We've discussed that many a time, as you know. The issue is that now we are on the recovery side of that situation for a good part of us, but some of us, not so much. Understand that, yes, the car companies, like most of the world, shut down for a time because of COVID, but that was only a short period of time. After that, they came back open, and people who have been working at the plants have been working there ever since. And in the meanwhile, while that was going on, the profits once again came into play. Last year, Stellantis, for example, had the best year ever, from my understanding, in regards to what they made. And because of that, the average profit sharing was about $10,000, I believe it was, maybe more. That if you are a Stellantis worker, feel free to chime in with that information if you choose to disclose it. But all that being said, that does not talk about people's daily compensation for the work they are doing. Understand, your basic plant worker is working a job that requires large amounts of manual labor in some cases. Yes, there are some cushy jobs at the plant. As a person who's visited a plant or two in my time, who actually did work as a temp worker at a plant or two, so I have an idea how that really works. But there's cushy jobs at all of the jobs if you dig deep into it. Any job from McDonald's on up. So you cannot judge it by that. You need to judge it by the full body of work that all employees are doing. And if you are an employee who has started at the plant now, the average starting salary for an auto worker, according to one report that I read, was about $17.25 an hour. So we're going to do some math here, y'all, and work with the basic math and figure it out from there, shall we? Now, let's just say you are, as a plant worker, $17.25 an hour. Now, like I said, for some of y'all, that sounds like a great amount of money, because, again, you may be working now in a place that's paying you $9, $10, $11 an hour. But remember, we're supposed to be judging ourselves based upon what the average American makes, okay? Since we are talking about an American strikers, keep in mind the Canadians are starting to settle some of their strike differences over there in Canada. You'll see that report if you haven't already. But here in America, the average person is making $54,000 and some change a year. You know, we usually work with those basic numbers that I'd like to throw out in these type of arguments. The average person is paying about a little bit over $1,000 in rent a month. They are also paying for a litany of bills, which of course includes, in most households, light bill, gas bill, water bill, health insurance, life insurance, and a variety of other little things that you may have to pay. If you have children in private school, you're paying that money. If you have children, period, and that's a whole nother argument. We ain't gonna get to that part of it. Let's just say that you are supporting your household, you yourself and I, making $17.25 an hour. But you are living in a household, or you're living in an apartment, and you are the sole proprietor, and you pay all your own bills. Okay? Let's go with that. Now, let's just say, for sake of argument, you are working 50 hours at the plant with a starting salary of $17.25. Doing the quick math, $17.25 times 10, $172.50. Y'all not gonna learn this with the new math, okay? $172.50. Let's round it out to $175. So $175 for every 10 hours of work, okay? In a 40-hour work week, that's $175 times 4. That's $700. All right. And then let's add the overtime. Overtime is half of what your salary is. So basically $17.50. Half of that will be about a little bit under $9. Okay, let's just say it's $9, but let's round it off. So let's say $9 for 10 more extra hours plus your $17.50. So you add that $17.50 plus the $9, that's $26.50 for 10 hours. That's $262.50 plus that $700. That's $962.50. That is what you are making for a 50-hour work week. So again, let's round it off to 1,000. So $1,000 a week for basic plant worker A, working a 50-hour work schedule. Okay. Now keep in mind something very important. As I did the numbers, I did not configure any deductions in that amount. So yeah, 1,000 may sound like a lot to be making, but that's not what these people are taking home. Again, they have to deal with some of the same things that we deal with in terms of the taxes. They take out for the FICA. Remember good old FICA? They take out for Social Security tax. They take out, of course, for basic tax A. And again, that's depending on you yourself, not having no dependents, what have you. So that tax rate may be anywhere from 24 to 32%. Then, of course, if you are living in a state that has state income tax, they're taking that out as well. So that $1,000 now becomes somewhere around $800, maybe even $750. Then, of course, there are union dues that you have to pay. Have no idea what that is, but I'm going to say, sake of argument, take out another $50, okay? So that means instead of taking home that $1,000 for working 50 hours a week at the plant, you're only taking home about $700. Starting to make a little better sense now, right? Now, granted, you saying, okay, well, it's people that's been at the plant that's been there 10, 20 years. Surely they're not making $17.50. You got to remember, they do something called cost of living increase here in America in most places. Think about when was the last time the UAW negotiated a contract. In that contract, they usually negotiate cost of living wage increases. That does not account for the fact that during that last negotiation, the pandemic had not hit us in the way that it hit us, where many of us are still playing catch up with our bills going into 2024 because of how hard it hit us in 2020 and 2021. So yeah, I work at the plant. I'm making $700 a week take home. So that's $1,400 every 2 weeks, $2,800 a month. Think about that for a minute. Okay. So $2,800 a month times 12 months. Let's do some quick math again. That's 2,800. That's 28,000. Plus 5,600. That's a little bit over 30. Let's just round it out. $34,000 take home for basic plant worker A. Now, I say you've been there 10, 20 years. How much more do you think that person should be making than basic plant worker A? And even so, let's consider, like I just figured out the quick math. Remember I said the average American makes $54,000 a year. Basic person at the plant, based on the numbers I just did, that wasn't 54,000, was it? It was considerably less, was it not? And that's for somebody making $17.50 an hour. So just imagine your Wendy's or McDonald's worker who usually it is frowned upon for them to get overtime. Imagine what they're making, just making $9, $10, $11 an hour. That sure ain't nothing close to 54,000 hours. Not even in the ballpark. So, okay, based on those numbers, I would say it probably take you about 10 to 15 years with cost of living increases and job switching and stuff to get to a point where you make $54,000. By then, you've been at the plant, let's say 10, 12 years. Let's say you started at 25. You're 37 years old now. You are making a little bit over $50,000. And with that $50,000, you are paying all those bills that I lined out. Now, let's add a wife. Let's add children. Let's assume that wife is a stay-at-home mother and you have 2 kids. You have to compensate for all of their expenditures as well with that $52,000, okay? that part there. Now, you divvy all that up between 4 people, $13,000 a piece, and you still got to pay for everybody's light, heat, gas, clothes, water, food, insurance for everybody. Oh, and then let's see, you might want to have a vehicle to take everybody back and forth. You might want to go out every now and then, that type of stuff. And all that is done on $54,000 or less. Okay? That's just part of this equation. Let's look at the other part, the actual work itself. I don't know if many of you have been in a plant, an actual working plant. While it's working, many of those places are not set up in an environment you may be used to. Like here at home, when I'm hot, I turn the air on. I got the fan going, and I'm sweating a little bit. That's because I ain't trying to turn the air on. I'm trying to save me a little dollars. So I just got the fan blowing behind me, but I'm fine. But meanwhile, at the plant, yeah, it's supposed to be air conditioning and ventilation and all of that. And it works to some degree, obviously. But for the most part, some of those plants, they are very closet, stuffy type places to work, okay? And then keep in mind some of the materials that the people that work there are working with, the phosphorus paints and things of that nature in the air, all the machine oil and variety of gears and the soldering iron, gas, dust, and all of that, you have to contend with every day. Not the most friendliest environment to work in, all right? Some of these plants are very cramped spaces where you got several people working in one area. That's not always the most comfortable thing. Okay. Yeah, you have 3 shifts at a lot of these plants, so you're not doing all the work yourself. But because of how much they are pushing production, please excuse the sounds behind me. Hopefully everything's all right back there. Because of that, you do have to contend with certain working environments that basic person A may not have to contend with on their job. Some compensation has to be made for that, does it not? Another thing, you have a variety of different ages and age groups. You have a variety of different jobs that need to be done. Some jobs are everyday, constant, all day. Some jobs you get time to rest a little bit more than others. But in most plant type situations, you are dealing with seniority and you are dealing with people who, as they move up, tend to get the jobs that are a little bit less stressful and tend to pay a little bit more. But for basic person A, you usually start out on entry level jobs that may be very physically demanding. They give you the grunt work to do. It only makes sense. You got to work your way up, right? Now you are doing all this, making the $17.50. It's a lot. And for those of people that work the plant life and usually work more than 10 hours, because mind you, I did it on 10 hours. A lot of people work 12 hours. Some people work 16 hours. So yeah, that changes the money a little bit, but still not putting you in the average tax bracket for a lot of people, especially early on in your auto career. You still have all that to contend with and still try to go home and maintain a household and have a life outside of the plant, okay? And you're doing that on anything close to 30 to 40,000 more so than the average income of 54, and definitely not beyond that unless you've been at the plant for many a year and been fortunate enough to get one of those jobs that pay significantly more. And those jobs are not a dime a dozen at the plant as you would think. So consider all that as we now are into the negotiations for people to get compensated. Okay, understand, people, this is America. We have been basically taught that in America, it is on us to create as much usage for ourselves as possible in order to get the most money that we can at any line of work that we are doing. So when it comes time to get a raise, whether it be at the plant, at the McDonald's, at your office, wherever you may work, the idea is to try to get the most raise you can, right? It makes perfect sense. But also, you have to understand the other half of the equation, which is the business itself. If they basically pay you all of the money and make no profit because they have to pay you everything, then of course they can't properly operate the business or even grow the business because they have paid it all out in salary. So yes, there isn't a, the idea of what's going on the other end. But now let's get to the actual product itself, okay? We are selling automobiles. Have you looked at how much a new car costs lately? And I'm talking basic car A. Basic car A runs you about $25,000 a piece, okay? And that's basic car A. That's not with all the fancy bells and whistles, right? The extra lighting and heated seats and all that, tinted windows, all that good stuff that you might get with the vehicle. That'll jump the price up another 5, 6, 8,000 bucks. Okay, so let's just add some of that, say 30,000. 30,000 per new car. So basically one car pays one salary for the year based on the numbers we figured out earlier. All right. And that's basic car A. Most people aren't buying basic car A. They're buying the extended model. They're buying something, especially if you got the money, you're more likely going to spend the money. So if you're making the $250K a year and up, as most of the 1%ers make, you're not likely to buy basic car A. You're getting the Beamer, the Benz, the F-150, the Hummer, all that good stuff. And those cars don't cost $20,000. That being said, probably the most expensive car of any of them to make may cost $50,000 to actually make, but sells for a couple $100,000. So yes, there is quite a profit being made off automobiles. And understand, I'm saying $25,000 as base price. That's not including that thing we call financing and those things that we call interest and all of that. So even though the car may cost you $25,000 at face value, it may take you $35,000 or $45,000 to pay for it in full. All that money's going somewhere. Most of it going back to the automaker who made said vehicle. Now, obviously, if it's costing $25,000 for basic car A, and it's only costing maybe $8,000 to $10,000 to actually build basic car A, that $15,000 should be split between the people making the cars and the people in charge of getting the cars out there to be sold, right? And it should be closer to equal than not. When you look at the top earners in these corporations, Stellantis and Ford and GM, they are pulling down millions of dollars a year in salary. They're not making anywhere close to what basic person A is making. Now you say that's only fair, E. They're the ones making the big decisions. But look at the actual job they do in terms of its demand. Yeah, it may be mentally stressful to a degree, I imagine. But from a physical standpoint, a lot of those CEOs and whatnot, they're not hands-on. They sit in the office, they have meetings, they travel the world making decisions, but they're not working that strenuous plant life that their workers are. And they are getting paid considerably more for it than basic worker A. So when you look at these CEOs making $4 and $5 million a year just in base salary, and then adding all the bonuses and stuff that they have received just in the last 5 years, the one CEO for Stellantis reportedly has made over $80 million in less than 5 years in salary and compensation. 80 million, okay? That's a lot for one person to make. Look at some of our favorite athletes and whatnot. and what they have made in that same time. Yeah, you have your Steph Curry's and you have your people like Patrick Mahomes that just got his nice little deal, but they are more the exception than the rule. All right. So while that person is making 80 million, that same person, basic person at the plant, has made probably a little bit under 100K in that same 4-year period. All right. And in the meanwhile, cost of living has gone up considerably just in the last 5 years. Y'all been out here. Y'all been buying gas and food and whatnot. Think about how much stuff cost just before the pandemic, just a short 4 years ago, as opposed to what it costs now. Since that time, gas then went up at least $1. The cost of simple stuff like eggs and milk and bread then been up $1, $2, $3. And meat, don't even get me started on meat. The pack of wings that might have cost you $2.99 for about 8 of them, some 5-10 years ago, may run you about $5, $6, $7 easy now. And let's not even talk about how the restaurants have been compensated, and the meals that they used to sell for $5 and $6 are now $10 and $12, and so on and so forth. So as cost of living has gone up, wages should go up, should they not? Now let's get to the nitty-gritty. The initial offer of the UAW, they wanted a 49% raise increase. That's basically 50%, right? Let's round it out. So basically they're saying, take my salary and add half to it and then pay me. Think about what you do for work. Wouldn't it be nice if you can get what you're making now and then half of that on top of that? That'd be beautiful, wouldn't it? Is it feasible in most places? Absolutely not. No way. Not gonna happen. If most basic places did it, your mom and pop type places, if they did it, then you know what happens then? They go bankrupt. They go out of business. They couldn't afford to pay you that and still operate at any type of real profit that's beneficial to them. So the question is, can the big three afford a 49% pay increase for people, even if it's done in an incremental fashion? Yes and no. I do believe them when they say, no, we can't afford to do that. It would be catastrophic for, because we have to close a lot of these plants, what have you. I believe that. But I also keep in mind, 1980, when I first started paying attention to how much stuff costs, and my brother bought a car for a little bit under $6,000-7,000 at the time, I believe it was, maybe even $8,000. That was what, 40 years ago. That same type of car now costs 25 G's, 30 G's. Incrementally, cost of living has gone up. So that is why the person that used to make $3 an hour for minimum wage makes $7.50 now. But is it enough of a cost of living increase to compensate for how much prices have gone up over the years? Answer to that is no. Has the work changed? In a lot of cases, yeah, because of modern technology, some of the things that were just extremely hard to do are a little easier to contend with the mechanics and machinery and AI that we have available. But that being said, some things, the only way to truly get them done properly is with two of these. Okay? And plant life is very much like that. You can't do robotics with everything. If you could, you probably would, which leads to another issue. Keeping in mind that right now, our plants are fitted for the most part to make gas or hybrid vehicles. We as a country, we as a world want to eventually switch to all electronic vehicles, which is a whole nother set of circumstances, particularly when it comes to how the engines and the inside of these cars work. If you are basic plant worker A, of course you're concerned that, okay, once they switch over to this and my job is to put the gas lines in the car and now cars don't need gas lines no more, what am I going to do? Especially if they're not paying me enough now for me to be compensated so that when that does happen, I can make enough money to trained to do something else or go somewhere else or whatever the case may be. Got to be a concern to some of the plant workers. Another thing is, like I said, they see the prices of these things going up. Remember, they're not only the people that work on the car, they're also consumer of the car. It's the reason why the plants over the years have started to give discounts to the employees, because they know it is hard for them to purchase a vehicle with the salaries they are making. It only makes sense that you would give them a significant discount so they would buy the cars of which they work upon and support the business that way. That being said, those who do that, they're obviously paying back into the system that should be paying them in kind. So absolutely, should they get a raise? No doubt about it. Should they get a 49% raise? Can't say so. Remember, that was part of the argument people had with changing the unemployment to $15 an hour across the board over the country. For people like myself, that might have been a few dollars raised because I'm here in Michigan, but for people down in Mississippi and places like that, where the minimum wage is about $8, that would have been a hell of a come up, right? That would have been not only that 49%, that damn near be 100%. Imagine you working down there making $7.50 an hour, but because the national employment rate is now $15, they got to give you one hell of a raise. And of course, all they will do is just compensate by making everything cost more in return. All right, we finally got a comment in here. Hey, Eric, what's going on, Ro? Our good buddy Road to Stardom checking in as she always does. You know, I must stop the show as I always do when she comes in to let you know that please support my sister Road to Stardom. We like to follow her on all these social media platforms. She is Road to Stardom Radio, where she does independent work so that you, my friends, can hear some of the best independent indie music that is out here today and some of the hits that you are used to hearing as well. You can find her on Road to Stardom Radio. You find that here. You can find that there. You can find that on Facebook. You can find that on Instagram. Road to Stardom. Y'all see it right there. You can find it on SoundCloud. You'll see that. And then you see us there at the bottom, www.roadtostardommerchandise.com. It will take you to this right here. And then up under that, you will see all the things that Ro is selling. She uses that money to support independent music and other small businesses herself. She's a great person. Please support Road to Stardom. We always will appreciate that. Ro also checking in saying she's watching the Sun Lynx game before I do my show at 9. So yes, I appreciate you checking in ahead of time. Of course, we are doing the sports show after this, Ro. Since you are doing your show, you will probably miss that. But thank you for checking in. And yeah, I will be checking out the highlights of that once I get done with the shows for the evening. I very much like the game last night between the Mystics and the New York Liberty. That was a very good game. Won by Liberty. We'll talk about that more on the Big Buck Sports Report following this broadcast. Back to the show again, bro. Thank you always for supporting us here at the Nighthawk Network. We love you. And we too love you, the auto workers. We want you to get yours, okay? We want you to get a fair compensation for what you do because it is not easy work. I will tell you, basic person A may not be able to do what y'all do every day. In fact, I would say some of basic people A definitely could not do what y'all do every day for work. Some of y'all work really, really hard, and you deserve to be compensated for that work. 49% don't know. Somewhere in there, absolutely, because the people that are leading you are making way more money. Y'all should be making way more money. The cars that you are selling cost way more money than they did. Bigger profit share, okay? So you are deserved compensation. Now, the latest proposals that we know of are offering about a 20% raise increase. That, based on the math we did earlier, will give you a raise of about $3.50 to $4 an hour. Not a bad raise at all, but still not close enough to get you to that $54K that average American is making. only put you at about 40 and some change. So obviously that 49% will put you over that, and we need to meet somewhere in the middle. I say they probably will end up somewhere around that 25 to 30% range myself. But keep in mind, in doing so, will they really win? The answer is yes and no. They will get a significant raise and compensation on that level. But who will end up paying the cost to be the boss in the end? They will, because they will find ways at that point to have early layoffs to get some of y'all off the books. And also, that price is going to be passed on to good old Joe Sixpack, us consumers, as the car prices will definitely go up. Keep in mind, with the technology used in the electric cars, that's something we have to look forward to anyway. Car prices will go up. So with that understanding, that is part of why they feel they are entitled to a significant raise also. Just common sense. We get that. Now, as far as the 48-hour work week is concerned, that would be nice. That would be nice for all of us if we only had to work 4 good days a week and could have 3 days off, especially their Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. In the ideal world, that'd be a beautiful thing. But guess what? That's not likely to happen. Okay? Even if you set it up to where some people get the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and other people get the Monday too, I don't see that working out in a way that will be advantageous to your employee. If they could figure out a way to kind of make some weeks less and some weeks more and kind of stair-step it that way, maybe, perhaps we could work that out. But ultimately, 4-day work week probably not good for a plant. Definitely not good for schools, by the way, for those schools considering doing a 4-day school work with the amount of learning that our kids are not learning lately. I definitely don't suggest we go to that at all. Even if it means they go to school all year round. No, I don't think that's a good idea. As far as the tier system, which basically says that if you work a certain amount of years, they put you here, work certain more, you here and here. Like I said, I don't have a full understanding of that. It's better for you to actually talk to a plant worker or do a little bit more research on your own and figure out how that works exactly. But I myself would not want to on that. That basically sounds to me like similar to a salary cap. And in the ideal world, us being Americans, we want to make as much money as we can for as long as we can. So we don't adhere to salary caps. Okay? We want to get it in. They deserve to get it in. You've been there 30, 40 years, that should count for something, right? And then, of course, the retirement funding and all that other stuff that is part of the negotiations. Hopefully, they will receive fair compensation for that. Bottom line is, people, we also have to remember, this strike does not just affect the auto worker. It affects everything the auto worker supports and everything the auto industry supports. So, if the auto workers are on strike for extended period, those plants that make parts that go to the auto plants to be added to vehicles, they are affected. The manufacturers of the paints and the materials that are sent to the plants to be used to make cars, they are affected. The people in the surrounding areas of the plant that are supported primarily by people that work at the plant, the gas stations, grocery stores, restaurants, clothing and merchandising places in those areas are affected by the plant and the lack of money. The lack of money going into the pockets of the employees because they are then in the strike fund and only receiving about $500 a week on average, making somewhere around minimum wage at that point after going from $17.50 to even less in a household that may already be struggling. That does not help the economy. Excuse me, people. Basically, anything that's related to anything car related is ultimately affected now or will be affected by a prolonged strike. Not to mention the political fodder that it makes for the Republicans and Democrats in the argument, okay, whose fault is this on their end? how much involvement or non-involvement should they have. Understand that it is reported that the former president plans on coming here to have a talk with union members. I kind of agree with Congressman Dingell in terms of him not being so welcomed here in Michigan, although I know this is a purple state for real. And some of y'all definitely would approve the message of him coming here to be a part of the festivities, so to speak. I don't want him here, but hey, it is what it is. We all have the right to our opinions on that one, I guess. But what you should want, what anybody should want, what we all should be praying for is a quick and decisive end to this strike. Hopefully sometime in the next 7 to 10 days. Do I think that's going to happen? I do not. I say the strike goes on for at least 30 days. And the way they're doing it now is instant, where they've only closed a few plants, so not to affect people's money so much. But I think it's going to come down to making them really feel it. In order to do that, they need to shut down at least half the plants for a couple weeks so the pockets of the big three feel it and the economy feels it, so that more people become interested and involved in these negotiations so that they happen. That being said, UAW, I wish you luck. Hopefully you can get as much as you can that is fair for all parties involved. As far as the big three, do the right thing. Make this thing happen. Because that is what's going on y'all end. Now, I'm going to take a quick commercial break, grab some water, clear my throat. When we come back, we got to talk about the strike that we have not talked about enough. The one that's been going on for months now. And it's going to be just as damaging and harmful to the pockets of us, the constituents, as well. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, stay tuned. When I come back, folks, we'll talk right about that there, okay? Y'all cool with that? That'll work? All right, let me get this. But remember, I'm not only the host, I'm the producer. Let me get it in for y'all. All right.
We're not asking for your permission. We're not seeking your approval. We're claiming what's ours in the name of our ancestors. We are their answered prayers. This is more than a movement. This is a revolution. Black innocence. What are yours today?
What's going on, y'all? Thank you for Buckbeats for that little prelude mix. Appreciate you for that. We are back with the AM NIGHTHAWK Podcast. What's happening? We have been talking about the strike situation with the UAW. We must now also talk about the strike that's not been talked about. That is the strike going on with Hollywood, with, of course, the Writers Guild and also the Actors Guild of America, and how that has gone on for months now and not being talked about nearly enough. Why is what I ask, as I have contemplated in my nightly thinking, which is what this show is based on, the things I think about at night while many of you sleep. We should really be concerned that this has gone on for this long, okay? Now, when some of y'all think of Hollywood, you think about the big baller shot callers of Hollywood. You think about the Access Hollywood, TMZ Hollywood, where they basically talk about the same 20 or 50 big actors, actresses, musical acts, the Taylor Swifts, the Will Smiths, the y'all know who the big actors are, the people that make the big money, okay? Hollywood is not just about them, okay? Understand this strike could go on for another year or two, and those people will be fine because of the hundreds of millions of dollars they have made over the years, because of their talents, mind you. The big wigs that are the big directors and producers, they too will be fine. The Shonda Rhimes and the Lorries of the world, the Steven Spielbergs and whatnot, because they too have big bank accounts. This strike is not so much about them, it is about the people under them, the lesser people, the basic person ABC of Hollywood, the ones behind the scenes that without of which none of this really works, okay? If that was the case, then they'd be moving forward with a lot of stuff because, okay, we don't need the writers or basic actor A. All we need is you guys. So we'll just pay you a few people and we'll keep it moving until we get whatever resolved with them. It is important that the big actors of our time, the big players in this, stick to their guns and support the union. Because it's not so much their futures that are in jeopardy, but the future of all the rest of the people that work for and under them, okay? Understand when you make a movie or a television show or reality show, whatever the case may be, several people are involved in that production. Hundreds of people are usually needed to make basic movie A, basic Hollywood movie A, I should say. You know, of course, they're smaller, independent film, what have you. But to make the big productions, that takes quite a few people behind the scenes working collaboratively to make that happen. And those people have to make a living. And those people are not being properly compensated. Understand that in this world of modern technology and artificial intelligence, some of the jobs of the people who work in Hollywood are no longer needed. There's less people working in Hollywood in terms of production and editing and whatnot because computers are able to do their jobs, are being trained to do their jobs. That is part of the concern, that you as a writer of a show may come up with a great creative idea for a show, start writing said show, and then they use AI to basically replace your thoughts with it, and they continue the show from there without needing your brain power and what your thinking is to keep that show going. And you won't be compensated for it. That's not good. The people that are in the editing room, there are several apps now I've been looking at that can basically edit a show like this, cut up into little clips, and then you can post it on whatever social media platform and what have you, and then it will automatically reoccur and go on the algorithms that bring more people to your show and bring more eyes and ears in. All that can be done by just some voice commands. The same as being set up for movies and such. It's making certain people's job obsolete. And then they are forced to do other things for work. After having worked in the industry for years, making just enough to get by or feed their family, okay? Understand a lot of people in the Hollywood scene work not only across the world on different movie and TV sites, but also primarily in the New York and California areas, two of the more expensive areas in our nation in terms of cost of living and what have you. Remember those statistics I threw out earlier in the show about the $54,000 and $1,000 for rent and whatnot? If you live in California, those two amounts are jokes to you, okay? Especially the $1,000 for rent. Have y'all heard about how much basic apartment A costs in San Francisco alone? You know, I always encourage you to do your research. Look it up. Living in Manhattan or the Upper East Side or whatever the case may be, pretty penny, folks. Not cheap. So for all the people in the world that are the movie stars, there are also basic actor A, mid-level actor, people that work behind the scenes on the cameras, on the film site, on the lighting, on the sound, on the costuming, etc., etc. All these people combined make for our television viewing and watching. And then again, the economy has been affected in many ways. The people that probably have lost and benefited the most are the people of the movies and TV. So on the one hand, there was a time where we weren't going to movie theaters, so they was not getting that movie theater money. But guess what? To compensate, they started streaming a lot of those movies. And as a result, streaming platforms came to life. They are on the rise. I will safely say, I'm just going to throw a number out here. I don't have an exact number, but let's say 80% of all American households have at least one streaming platform available to it, whether it be by internet or phone or what have you. Okay? So that's your Netflix, your Hulu, your Amazon Prime Video, etc., etc. And as we know, for those of us who have those things, the price of all of those have went up considerably in the last 5 years. Okay, a lot of those started out at $4.99, $5.99. Netflix now up to about $20, and Hulu up about 20, and you got YouTube TV. It started with about $39, $29.99, now up to about $80, etc., etc. All those prices have gone up. If you go to the store to buy the DVD after the movie and put it out and whatnot, it's not the $9.99 or $19.99 it used to be. It's $24, $34, $49, etc., etc. Okay? Even some of those people work on video games and whatnot. Think about how much your video game systems cost now. How much basic video game A costs. All that comes into play in this. Is the people that are behind the scenes, that are not the big time star, that is affected most by this writer and this actor strike. A lot of these people now are currently working as other things, as a lot of them have to, even when they go back to work, because they are not being compensated enough doing their original job to make up for what they're paying outside of work and they real life. We all know about the story of the actress that's trying to get movie roles and whatnot. The famous people that still work at Starbucks and what have you, because, yeah, they may have a couple TV commercials and may have a couple bit parts in TV shows or movies or whatnot, but it's still not enough money to make up for their cost of living where they are. They may be somebody famous in our eyes that we may recognize, but in the same token, they may live somewhere with 3 other roommates. That's the only way they can afford to live. That part. And let's talk about why it's not being discussed enough in the national media, because they are part of the problem right now. Some of these same people, they work for CBS, they work for NBC, ABC, TBS, so on and so forth. And they are waiting to be compensated by them as well. All these streaming platforms that have increased their prices have not in kind increased how much they are paying said employee. Not to mention those people that are supposed to get the residuals for a lot of this stuff from it being constantly showed again and again and again. They're not being compensated properly. How many stories have we heard about people that work years on shows like The Cosby Show or Big Bang Theory and whatnot as basic person A on the show, and they get these residual checks for like 50 cents, $1.92, whatnot. 2 of the people that I went to school with that are part of the network of people that might see the show, one Dwayne Burns and one Niecy Daniels, 2 people that I went to both high school and college with who are part of the Hollywood scene thereabouts. If they chime in and see this, they can give you a better idea of what we're talking about. They are very much involved in this situation, being creatives themselves as both writers and actors and producers. So they completely not only understand what I'm saying, they can actually tell you about it even more so. Niecy has talked about that on her podcast in regards to being properly compensated for the work you do. If you know anything about what's going on with her current lawsuit situation with P Valley and things of that nature. In the end, you just want to be paid a proper wage for the work you do. And you still want to be able to do that work without having to get 2-3 other jobs or basically do something that you don't want to do as opposed to something that you have grown to love doing. That is why we have this. And then we have the modern technology and we want to be compensated our fair share for said modern technology so that we not cut out of that part of the deal. Okay? It's already bad enough that we have all these streaming services that stream the music and there's not a proper compensation for the artist in a lot of those cases. Anyway, a lot of people playing Cardi B and Taylor Swift and whatnot out here. And you see Taylor, yeah, she making money because of the concerts, but she should also be making money on all the streams. If you add those two together, she should be a billionaire already. Cardi B should be 100, 200 million. Nicki Minaj, etc., etc. They making money, but not the kind of money they should be making. That's not to say that the people in charge of these decisions and whatnot, the CEOs and whatnot, should not be making their share of money also. It's just they should be making a fair share, and they should also be sharing a fair share. So for the movie houses and the CBSs and NBCs of the world, it's time to start seriously negotiating this and getting this resolved. Because in the end, again, we are the ones that's going to end up paying for it the longer it goes on. If suddenly Netflix is $30, Hulu is $50 and whatnot, I understand we hate missing out on all the good movies and music and whatnot. But again, we already struggling enough as it is to pay these things. We can't afford for them to go up too much more. I mean, in the end, they do. That means other things in life are going to have to get cut out. And then you have to pick and choose what you're going to pay for, what you're not going to pay for in terms of entertainment and outside of your basic household needs. You put America in a bad situation, letting it go to this. And like I said, because Hollywood and the Writers Guild are not a nationwide type thing as much so as the UAW, and like I said, because the major networks are involved in part of this, we're not hearing nearly enough of that story. So while we're supporting our UAW brethren and sisters, please support the people and actors and the Writers Guild as well. Because again, them missing out money is hurting that part of the economy too. Trust me, California and New York is suffering because those people are not able to go Starbucks like they was or buy basic groceries or whatnot because they have to scrimp and scrape in order to survive while this is going on. And then a lot of our favorite shows, such as Young Sheldon or Yellowstone or whatever people watching nowadays, the major shows, they're not coming out right now because production has stopped. A lot of people are fans of the Marvel movies. Gonna be a while for you seeing any of them right now based on how this is going. We need to strike the end so we can get back to watching some of our favorite things. So you want to support those people just like we support the UAW, and hopefully both of these strikes will end sooner than later. At this point, that is what I have to say on those subjects. Keep in mind, I've been talking about doing another show in regards to entertainment. I'm settling on a name that is In Their Business. In Their Business will be the name of my entertainment show where we talk about the business of celebrity news, of people in Hollywood, the rumors and all that good stuff. I am looking for co-hosts for that show. Hopefully, if any of you are interested, you will hit me up in my inboxes, my messenger in regards to that. In the meanwhile, like I said, I'm not going to actually start that show because I want to support my brethren and sisters And I do not want to talk about their business fully until that strike is resolved. So I'm not going to start that show until A, I find me a co-host. Although I'll do it by myself for a while after. And B, that strike is resolved. So we can properly talk about what's really going on. There is a couple of Hollywood rumors we can talk about right quick, though, to end the show. Let's talk about some dating rumors for a minute. Apparently, it's being said that young KK, Taylor Swift, dating Travis Kelce, Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of that's been talked about the last week. Only people that ain't talking about it is Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. Keep in mind, he's in the middle of football season. Taylor is in the middle of resting in between her U.S. tour and her world tour. So, until the paparazzi catch them together, I think that's all we're going to know about that for now. And today, TMZ reported the latest rumor that apparently Kim Kardashian is kicking it with OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. Supposedly, they are an item. They have been hanging out and whatnot. I imagine we'll find out more about that on the Keeping Up with Kardashians. That is supposed to start sometime later on this month. But yeah, should surprise no one that Kim is dating an athlete. That does appear to be something that her and her sisters like to do, as they all have dated athletes at some point. Excuse me, y'all. Nonetheless, those are the types of things I plan on talking about on that show, In Their Business, where we get all up in their business and give our opinions about said business. If those two couples are a thing, good luck to them. It's Hollywood. You know how that play out. More than likely, it won't last too long. Such is the case. Anyway, we're going to call this show a night. I got to get ready for my second show. And take me a good cough, apparently. In the meanwhile, y'all have a good one. This has been the I Am NIGHTHAWK Podcast. I have been your host, E-Buck. Until next time, y'all, support your unions. Support your people. Don't stress. Pray and let God deal with the rest. Where is that? I need it. Here it is, y'all. We out.